Hey, Chapel here, and today's the third part in the series talking about different blood archetypes, with the focus being on warrior blood. Warrior is another common blood that will start appearing early on into Farbane, and as with all the other bloods, you want to find 90% plus quality in order to take as prisoner and get blood potions with the full benefits. These are the effects. You get increased physical power, weapon CDR, reduced damage taken with increased damage to full health targets, and finally a chance to parry the attack, greatly reducing damage taken and giving you a buff that increases your own damage. With the buffs it gives you, Warrior is known for being a blood that favours towards physical damage and gives you massively increased tankiness and durability. Compared to Rogue, it sacrifices some damage and a lot of movement for a trade-off of higher damage reduction on weapon CDR. In Gloomrot prior to 1.0, Warrior sat at the very top in every single context compared to the other bloods, with other bloods only having viability through very niche builds and scenarios. While this has changed dramatically, Warrior still sits at the top almost across the board. The reduced damage taken makes it very forgiving for any mistakes, and other bloods will need to be smart in how they trade damage, as they will not win in an outright fight. The only time it's clearly outclassed is in open world roaming, where Rogue's move speed trumps it out as it cannot keep up or run away. On the flip side of this, one warrior is a must-have in any raid offense. This is because you want to have a warrior blood in Golem, also ideally with Dreadset. If you put a rogue or a scholar in Golem, they are going to get splattered, which is a waste of resources and an awful strategy for raiding. These are some tiers I would put spells in when talking about warrior. As you'll probably see, the majority of high-rated warrior spells consist of defensives, buffs, or spells that offer other kinds of utilities. Any spell that provides raw damage or a poor combo with how warrior plays. Now, unlike the other guides, I want to format this a bit differently and talk about the spell combos all in one section. The reason for this being they are very closely related, and the three variants that are most played go into somewhat of a rock, paper, scissors situation. So, for the spell combinations, this is what I'd recommend. I'm often asked about what's best used for 1vx situations when you're outnumbered, and the answer to this is simple. Double defensive, especially double counter, is perfect here. Cold Snap Discharge especially makes an excellent combo. When fighting versus a group with double counter, it only takes one person with poor discipline to proc your counters and make you borderline invincible. By cycling through your defensives, iframes, and slasher invis, there are very few openings where anyone can even deal damage to you. So just as it sounds, double defense is very obnoxious to deal with, especially due to the only universal anti-defensive being Sword Q. So this is where anti-defensive builds come into play. For this you'll be using AoE spells like Void, or defensive cancellers like Soulburn and Cyclone. Using any of these is a perfect way of cracking through the airtight defensive uptime that's offered by double counter. It gives your team a lot more pressure in combos, and the only downside requirement of the anti-defensives is having to be melee range. AoE spells don't have this requirement, but are nowhere near as punishing. Now, having your defenses made redundant is also incredibly annoying, and this is where the third variant of buff defensive shows its strength. By pairing your defensive with a spell like Blood Rage, Power Surge, or Aegis, you can stop the anti-defensives being a problem, as these spells provide upfront value and shielding that cannot be nullified in the same way that counters can. On top of this, these spells provide great keep away for Soulburns and Cyclones, due to the move speed of Blood Rage and Power Surge, and then the knockback and fears offered by Aegis. The benefit of these spells is also the fact they can be used on teammates. So as you can see, this all results in the rock, paper, scissors situation that I described. And as for the specific benefits of each variation, double counter gives the most survivability and the most potential to 1vx. Anti-counter gives you a way to deal with people's counters and gives you better comboing potential. And buffs give you consistent value and the ability to use it and help teammates. The last thing I want to touch on is regarding armor sets, as Warrior can be very flexible with these. You might have noticed I didn't mention about Veils in the previous spell list, and this is because the choice of these is heavily impacted by the armor sets you take. In general, Frost Dash and Chaos Dash sit at the top right now and are always solid choices. First of all, Dread set is the standard warrior set that gives you the most defensive value and greatly increases the value of Frost Dash. Shadow set lets you benefit from warrior's tankiness but gives you comparable damage to that of rogues. It makes Lightning Dash a lot better due to the increased damage you'll have from the stun combos. Third, you have Grim set, which gives you an alternative method of being bulky through high max HP, and brings Blood Dash to being comparable value to that of Frost Dash when hit. The final option is Scholar set, which can help increase the viability of the raw damage spells. However, if you want to do this, I would recommend fully committing to Scholar rather than playing Warrior. As for amulet choices, you typically want to be playing Mist, but green for the move speed or yellow for the attack speed are also options. Red is borderline viable, but is outclassed by the other choices. Alright, that's everything from me guys. Thank you for watching, and have a great day. I'll see ya.